In this session, we'll cover some basic data types in Python and the concept of variable. So before we jump into the theoretical part, let me refresh the Python Anywhere concept or the idea of execution environment in the browser. So this is Python Anywhere. Python Anywhere is a service that allows you to run Python projects, and since we are running Python and this is specifically to host Python applications, we have access to this dashboard which allows you to create a bash shell. Here is a bash shell, and this. Okay, so Python C, type here and press enter. You will be taken to the Python interpreter where all the practical execution, the corresponding programs or example code will be executed. So with that out of the way, where we execute the Python code, let's get back to the basic fundamentals. So Python is completely object oriented and it's not statically typed. If you come from C, C++, they have a compile time, or you have to compile the program to run it. Whereas Python does not require that. There are some nuances to that, but that's out of the scope of this session. Coming back to this, there are another difference with static typing and dynamic typing is there are no restrictions on variables to hold a specific type of value. In C, if you declare variable as integer, it can only hold integer values. Python, there is no restriction on that. And even when you declare a variable, there is no need to specify the data type, as well as there's no need to have a separate declaration and definition part, or I would say declaration and assignment part. You can really use the variable whenever, wherever you want. So you do not need to declare variables and neither their type. The additional property that you need to remember is every object or every variable in Python is an object. So the very first thing that you should know that Python supports numbers, and there are two types of numbers: integers and floating point numbers. It also supports complex numbers, but let's first figure out what's an integer and how that is used, and about more about floating points. So the very simple thing is, this is how you define an integer, and if you want to use, you use it like this. So that's more of a basic thing that you can do with. Now with respect to floating point, you have to specify a dot period in the number. Print my float, it should give you the same thing back. And if you want to convert, maybe, so if you say you don't want to do this, like specify this 0.0, you can do is my float float 7 to print my, I think up arrow key would work. So this how you do. There's a utility, nice utility type. If you do type of my int, it should give you the data type of the variable. If you see, you everywhere you see class, so that means that Python is completely object oriented. Everything is an object. Let's do type for my float, the float. Okay. There are strings as well in Python. So if you remember, we had done a basic hello world. Now if you do something like my message to hello world and then do a type over it, you should get a str. So that's a, what do I say, mnemonic, or str is strings short form. Now you have seen some Python programs, or let me introduce you to that. Declaring or uh, a string with, not declaring but defining a string can take place with two methods. There is one with single quotes and there is another with double quotes. If you go and say my PR is equal to hello world, this is also valid. If you do a type over this, still result in the same. There's nothing, there is no difference in Python 3 plus version, and strings are strings thing, fancy. And it's just that there are some rules on what escapes what. If you have something in double quotes, it escapes single quotes. So this is acceptable. Like, this is acceptable. You can have even double quotes, two quotes, two single quotes. And let's try the other way around. This is also possible. There is then there is one more, I guess. Back quote. How do we get a back quote? Yeah, this is covered in both the cases. You can have back quote here. Both the things are cancelled. These are the three quotes that you have. How it is taken care in Python. So, additional variations I think I'll cover in this. This is something that you see equal to is assignment, right? The basic operation that we can do on numbers, 3 plus 4 is addition. More advanced would be multiplication. This is 3 into 4. Something that you can do in Python is have something like mystr to hello world. Say mystr hello world. I want the space in between. Have three strings. Here, give me hello world with a space. Now there is something that should be known, that this addition operation is defined in standard Python. You don't have to do it if you come from the lower level languages. Multiplication is something that you should not try with. You do this and get. You can't multiply sequence. That is of type ST. So don't expect that hello world multiplication result in some. Multiplication doesn't work for string, but can you add two integers and a string? That's mystery. I'll keep open-ended and I'll let you figure out whether this is possible or not. So the gist of this is there are two data types in numbers category and one in strings, and that is the basic data type. There are others, lists and dictionaries, which we'll cover in the upcoming sessions. That's it.